I mean, synchronicity is what you look for to establish a domain of meaning. Otherwise, it's just a domain of the rational.
Hmm.
It's what makes sense. It's the domain of what can be reasoned about and understood, which is sort of a facsimile for meaning. And I feel like that's what lots of these AI agent LLMs, Chat GPT systems are all about. They're all about um, optimizing a rational solution. To me, like what really establishes the domain of meaning is you always have what in front of you is the rational thing you should be doing. If that's all life is meaningless. Is that what provides a domain of meaning for your life is that there's these fancy coincidences. There's these little domains where things line up, where it seems like not only are you building something, no, it's not you're not building something. There's something being built in general. What the synchronicity seems to provide is a certain type of networking. It allows for all of us to sort of be in our own disjunct sort of domains of meaning, domains of of ourselves. But then there is synchronicity brings it together. There's some sort of unified field of how this is all happening that is beyond what can be understood rationally by any one perspective. And I feel like that's what synchronicity is trying to establish is how to coordinate an organism when you are limited by your perspective.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. We are deeply diving into synchronicity today in a way that we haven't done before. Now, synchronicity tends to be this thing happens, that thing happens, and they have an overlap. Well, now we're getting much more sophisticated in being able to understand how to bring that overlapping together. Our guest today is Lilly Fiorino, who trains agents, that is, parts of artificial intelligence, to do what she wants them to do, which is to detect meaningful coincidences across information streams, and respond in ways that deepen collective coherence. That's what we're looking for from AI and other possibilities. She tests through improvisational music and grounded in ensemble theory. She also builds and studies oracles, exploring divination as a structured system for interpreting signal from noise. So, welcome to the show, Lilly Fiorino. It's so glad to have your marvelous intelligence uh, for us to be able to learn from.
Well, thank you for having me. Just being able to know you has been one of the great coincidences of my recent life, and so it's wonderful to be here.
Well, I'm glad to put you two together with Anna, and we can talk about that maybe another time. But
Sure.
uh, that was uh, that was far out and groovy too. But let's start with a major life transforming synchronicity of yours.
So one of the great life transforming synchronicities of my life was meeting my colleague Jonathan Zapp. Um, is I've always been very interested in the tarot and I'm trained in mathematics, and so I have a very precise and rigorous way that I take notes and go through like my card process in my notes. And over the course of several years, that sort of just turned into I'm gonna let my dogs out if that's okay. Go. And so, I'd been building. I had this idea in over the course of this refined technique I'd been building in my notebook of building a website that could ultimately perform the skill that I have, where I could ask a simple question, and then it would draw three cards and very naturally give me an answer right off the bat. And I made this Oracle over the course of about, I don't know, 6 months, actually working on the code. And as soon as it like worked, about a week later, and this was before any of the LLM chat GPT stuff. About a week later, one of my friends took me to my very first music festival. And on the very first night at this my very first music festival, the week after I'd like made my first like functional digital oracle, I met Jonathan Zapp. And Jonathan Zapp is he's the creator of the Zapp Oracle, which is a another online digital oracle. And really and he's a very um exuberant and unique character in and of himself. And I think you had him on the show.
Oh yeah.
And um and yeah, I recognized like very much immediately that he was like my predecessor, that he'd been working on this oracle that had sort of like been this development um in his life since the 60s. It started out as a collection of postcards in his in a backpack. And over the course by like and it was like one of the very first like oracles online. He It was like put online in like 2003. Um, and so I just very naturally recognized like uh the significance of like having met like a predecessor, um, and that and he was in need of someone to like work on his oracle and to like make sense of further development. And we immediately went into um a collaboration um about future developments for how our oracles how it could influence each other, and like the differences that we have in the kinds of oracles that we have, um
Well,
which
this
so we
this
naturally.
way of how oracles influence each other.
Yeah, is one of the things that I recognized very naturally with Zap is that we have different types of oracles. Is that my oracle is much more acausal. It very much just like produces cards, and then you have to sort of like take your meaning, your statement, and then like filter it through this. And it has this tarot in general is like there isn't like a correct way to work through these symbols. They're very archetypal and they're sort of personal. And every sort of tarot psychic will they'll have a general structure, but they will um what they bring is a person is an individual personality. Where like the other great like alternative is like the Zap Oracle, which is much more like the I Ching Oracle, which is the 64 hexagrams of fundamental um, mathematical archetypes, basically.
Yeah.
And they have there's been successive dynasties of um, Chinese dynasties to like refine the tarot and to have specific prescriptions for what these hexagrams mean and how you're supposed to interpret them and how you can work with them to achieve balance in your life,
Well,
which is like the opposite of tarot.
that's such a clear distinction. Although there's overlap between the
Hmm.
Tarot and the I Ching, at least the Book of Thoth, the Crowley deck, and you can make analogs between the two. But to say that, let me call it the rigidity of the I Ching, already established, this is how you do it, and
Yeah.
the fluidity of tarot cards for the most part, that's an important distinction. And Jonathan was doing something that was more like the I Ching, and you were doing something that was more like tarot cards.
Yeah. Jonathan's Oracle his is these 720 cards that are um, like fundamental, meaningful like nodes of coincidence and of meaning and of like wisdom that he's interpreted in his life. And when he gets a card, he makes one and he puts it in the oracle. But they're basically like, oh yeah, this is where I was in that life, in this place in life, and I see this in, for other people in my life, and this is what this is. Like this is wisdom as a like old man wisdom about that place in the world, which is very, it's very masculine from my perspective. It's this very like, old man wisdom, where tarot is much more um feminine, or like, it has this essential mystery of like it doesn't ever quite make full sense. There's never
That's
like what does this
That's
really
you got to make the stuff up,
yeah.
and use what we call intuition to be able to do that. Well, let's move away from that wonderful distinction between the I Ching and Tarot, uh, and get to what you are doing in finding information streams. In this case, music is one of the streams, and finding synchronicities as you proceed with your agents connecting them with another information stream.
Yeah, and so when I mean, agents, I just ultimately mean like a program that does complex analysis and is capable of responding and utilizing machine learning. It's capable of as I work with it, getting better. Um, and what I really do and what I'm really interested in is setting up dynamic ensemble and analyzing all the different parts. Um, and having this seems like a general model for all kinds of different behavior in the world. And and what you want is you want a machine that can go, hey, I think that these different things that I'm looking at are coming into coherence or something. It feels good. Like to me, it's like if I had like three guys, three people like um playing jamming improvisationally. Um, can a machine listen to their guitars and their drums and the harmony and the way that they're moving their body and like their heart rate? And the hypothesis is that when they come into sync, when there is general harmony between these different components, that's what we're feeling as the people in the ensemble as the groove. We're literally feeling it as like, yeah, yeah, I'm with it. And what we want is a system that can detect that, output a signal, and then another person, someone outside of the ensemble, the audience, basically goes, "Yeah, I feel this," and then they can verify that the model says that this is a groovy part of the song, and then the human being goes, "Yeah, this is a groovy part of the song." And if there's a correlation, then you know that these systems are like earnestly detecting like the groove, like the harmony, like the actual thing that's happening between the musicians that establishes the dynamic um, of like organizing around the song as opposed to organizing around your individual relationship with like your instrument and how you're or like how you're coordinating. What you want in an ensemble is for you to be um, in the perception of the music, the actual like whole thing that's happening between all the different parts of the group. And if you're thinking about yourself, there's just it's a limited position. And what I'm generally really interested in is developing agents that understand this groove well enough that they can act, they can physically like play an instrument, drum, coordinate with the ensemble in some sort of way that promotes the ensemble, that establishes even deeper harmony within that specific song, within that specific dynamic, and ultimately pulls the musicians even further into the music, into a domain of consciousness of harmony, of unity, of the dynamic of parts as opposed to the
Well,
individual
that, I
parts.
mean, I still like the old use of the word groovy here because they get into a groove together that
Yeah,
are harmonic together. And what you're suggesting is that your agent can pick up the harmony among, let's say, three people in a jazz band,
yeah,
jazz ensemble, which I know pretty well. And then the remarkable thing is to bring in what a bass usually does to make
right.
to help the group go. So if there's no bass, you'll put in a bass. If there's a drum, no drum, you'll put in a drum, or even maybe add another one, so that that new addition helps not helps find that groove for the other, let's say, three people to be able to get back into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a natural dynamic of harmony, and there seems to be a domain of intelligence of how to coordinate with a dynamic to establish unified harmony. Um,
I can't help wanting to know about um, outside of our music ensemble um, when a group starts grooving together, um, like could be on a dance floor, it could be in a conversation where they're trying to make something happen. Have you
mhm.
do you get outside of the ensemble in what you're doing?
Generally, I find that this is a metaphor of efficiency and resistance.
Uh-huh.
In general, is that as systems become more inner harmonic, is like it establishes inner harmony. That is equivalent to say that the system is just generally has less self resistance and is more efficient. It's able to pass energy back and forth between the different parts, and when I'm ready to pass off, you're perfectly ready to receive, and there isn't any resistance between those things. Where you can have like two people in conversation, and they both have a lot that they want to actually pass back and forth, but there's so much like either like capacity, like there's so much um like dynamism between these two people or whatever that they can't they keep passing back and forth with like with incredible like energy, or it's like I push it all into you, and then it doesn't really come back into me. And so it's about like recognizing all the different parts of how the energy is moving around and is being passed around and is like in timing, so all the parts can be in proper I think the word is hysteresis. um is that there's a breakdown in cause and effect in time, is that there's still like cause and effect, but the breakdown happens is like if I'm going to talk to you, you need to shut down, and I need to actually like let you talk and then receive, and then the pass. And so it's just like there's this eternal like back and forth dynamism. And so like I see this in music, I see this in people, I see this in like machines, I see this in um, just like general problems that human beings have. To me, efficiency implies ethics, or ethics implies a certain type of efficiency. Um, and so what's a really good domain where I see these things coming together? Oh, so the classic example I give is that we uh, the reason that we have to like expend energy to do things is because there is a natural resistance. Is if I have to go to Denver and I live in Trinidad, 200 miles away, I have to spend a whole $100 in gas now to get from one place to the other. But if there is a carpool, if there just is something going on from one place to another that I can take advantage of and I have the information, I can just get on the carpool, and the gas that was already going to get spent gets spent and I get to where I want to go. And it's about um establishing harmony. It's about like being able to like harmoniously get on the carpool ride when there is one. Um, but I have to be there, those things have to be in harmony. I have to know that. I have to have the information, and there actually does have to be a carpool.
Yeah,
Um,
uh, I'm stuck with the idea of resistance. Stuck with resistance. That that's a key idea in all this. That
yes.
there is harmony to be had, and there's harmony to be had in all kinds of places. Uh, Definitely with an ensemble in music, and what you can do with your agents is insert another instrument that holds the harmony the way a bass or a drum might do for a jazz ensemble.
Yeah.
What what I'm most interested in, Lily, is the interpersonal variance of this, which you began to allude to a little while ago, is that two people may be talking with each other, but there generally is a lot of resistance. Uh, there can be a lot of resistance for one person to listen to the other and the other to listen to the each other so that they are harmonizing with each other. So they're on the same page, people say. I'll say they're in a groove with each other. And I'll use terms like they're attuned and then they become aligned and then become resonant with each other, which are musical terms also. And how do you think about being able to create some kind of agent that can help people monitor their own resistance so they are able to go from attunement to alignment to resonance and then maybe to coherence?
Hmm. Well, I mean that obviously is the schema of the experience that I'm ultimately trying to invoke, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But the um I kind of feel like saying two disjointed things. Um is uh first I'll just say this is that so my dad is a professional blues drummer. He's like 74 now and he's been doing it since he was 14. And um and my dad said the most like spiritual and like substantial thing, like an influential thing that my dad ever said to me. He said, Lily, you'll know you're playing the drums or whatever instrument the way it's supposed to be played when you're not playing the instrument at all and you're entirely in the music you're making with your fellow musicians.
Yes.
Um, and what I got from that is that it might look like that there's like this guy on stage like outputting the vibe, but what he's really doing is that he's listening to the scenario. He's listening to his fellow musicians, his fellow and the people at the in the context of the venue, the people in the audience, and he's like perceiving it. And when he's like taking it in, his body just knows exactly what to do. He's like trained enough that like that's not what he has to worry about, and he just like gets to go straight into whatever it is. Like it's just it automatically responds. He's not gonna if he's really enjoying the groove, he's not gonna mess up. Um, because there is just no messing up. He's acting harmoniously with the dynamic, and to be plugged into into the dynamic is to be perceiving of it. And so what these agents fundamentally need to be is not proper actors, but proper listeners. Um, and to me, that seems like what is the essence of appropriateness is if you have a full and at least a wide sense of perception, you naturally act in a more harmonious way with the parts which in which you are involved with. Um,
That assumes that there is a harmonious energy field in which the person is functioning, which you can try to think a jazz group is trying to get to, that may not be quite there, but it's there. And with the audience as well as the ensemble, there's something to be reached for that is almost palpable that you can get to. That's
yeah.
not that's not necessarily out there in the real world. And I'd like you, if you can do this now, is relate what we're talking about to synchronicity.
To me is that uh synchronicity is the doorway between it's like the gate between what rationally makes sense and what is actually meaningful within a domain of perception. Is there's so many things within your domain of perception which make sense rationally. But if there is something in your domain of perception which has a unique significance to you, it's reoccurred over and over and over and over again in other instances. And it might not you rationally, you cannot see how this thing like this like the example I always give is if you were always given a stern talking to by a woman in a red hat in an orange room when you were younger, when you're much older and you are in a room with a stern woman with a red hat in an orange room, um, even though this is a this is a completely different person, different scenario, you're going to associate this. You're going to feel this perception of meaning that comes from your life experience, even though it is not rational. It's literally acausal, but it is meaningful to you. It's what, and if it's, and there reaches a point where if the impression of the stern woman in the with the red hat in the orange room was strong enough, it would overwhelm your ability to make meaning of the rational distinction of that this person is a unique person and this is an independent scenario from when you were raised. Um, and so you might act irrationally, um, but it would make perfect sense from your within your own field of meaning. And to me, this is what you know, why machines will never I don't know, but like that music is not a rational enterprise. You can't like make mathematical formalisms that produce songs and whole domains of genres or whatever, because it's fundamentally a domain of play. It's an interrelationship between the fundamental like rules of your instrument and of harmony and yeah, acoustic dynamics and these things and or and oh, I've lost my train of thought. Can you
It's a
remind me?
form of play.
Yeah, it's a
What
form of play. It's this
and
it's that
it can't be reproduced by a machine, although there are plenty of machines, AI machines, that are producing music that is um, gets popular. So
sure, but it
what's
lacks soul
it
because
lacks soul.
the soul comes from the human dynamic. Like I said, my dad's a professional blues drummer, and I asked him like, where's soul come from? And he just was like, it comes from slaves in the hot Louisiana sun, like singing songs back and forth to each other while picking cotton. It's like that is. not something that a computer will ever be able to simulate. And there is a dynamic, there's a soulfulness, there's a feeling, there's a familiarity of that those people at that time that produce a particular field of meaning within those people.
Field of meaning. And that's relatable to synchronicity, field of meaning.
R- Right.
Show us how they're related.
And so within like a dynamic of a sort of an ensemble musicians, there's always the rational components of how our instruments work and how we can collaborate and music theory and all these things. But then there just is all of the different influences that you have, all the different domains of how this rhythm makes you feel, the way that you've played this rhythm this 150,000 times, and that this song made you feel, and there's all these things that like are connected with the patterns that you're producing with your fellow musicians, that aren't causal. They're acausal. They're synchronicities that have happened in your life. There's songs that were meaningful, there are relationships that were meaningful, and they're not rational why they were really meaningful. They just were.
They just
And
work. They just work. As I mentioned, I'm writing a book, Therapy for Humanity. And as I get deeper into it, uh, when I'm writing something, uh, sometimes ideas come to me from outside of me, from other people, that fit right with what I'm writing.
right. Um, and so you can't not see a field of me. In like when I'm programming these systems, I just call it lights up with meaning. You see the similarity between your work and someone else's work, and you just can't help but go, that's so interesting. Like how there must be an underlying structure, even though I can't see it rationally. But you feel it.
It can not only feel it, you see it. Um,
Yeah,
there it
it's
is, and then
obvious. Yeah, it's obvious.
yeah. So I'm writing about mystical experiences, and then a friend of mine sends me a fifth way people have mystical experiences using some kind of a new technology to use for being able to have a virtual reality in which you can have mystical experiences, which is a new
Mm,
way to have a mystical experience,
for
which was
sure.
right when I was writing about four different ways to have mystical experiences. So I say, all right, it fits right there, and I'll just put it right in there. It's
Right.
can't can't help but think there's something else going on around me when that happens. This happens in other ways, examples of that, but that's a fairly dramatic one because it's about mystical experiences. So there's this field of meaning that you're talking about that we, like your dad, can like be part of, that I become
Yeah,
part
you're
of.
building something.
I'm
There's
building
this,
something,
yeah.
and when I'm building this thing, stuff comes in sometimes. And I've gotten so that when the stuff comes in, I figure it fits with right what I'm writing, and then it doesn't quite. The next section. It doesn't quite fit now, but it's there to be put in later.
Yeah, I mean, and I find that like as an oracle maker, um that the stages of the oracle seem to like already exist in the domain of harmony, like in the future. And they come to me and I just put them together. And that's what the experience is like. Um, is I have to do the work, but there just is like there's all these parts that I don't know how they will arrive, but I recognize that they will at the right time. And so meeting you and ultimately you introducing me into like Anna Terranova was one of these meaningful synchronicities for me. Because I was basically like at this position in life where I was building like like the technology for all of this, for all like for how to detect harmony in these systems, but I didn't like understand like the equation core that I'd be able to actually organize it all around. I just knew it would come around. Someone smarter than me would need to do that. Like I'm more of like an experimentalist. I'm more of a people person. I'm a person with that, like, I'm the kid of a person with a lot of soul. Like that's uh
And Anna is so smart. I mean, and she loves doing those equations. So she can put into kind of algebraic mathematical terms what you are doing intuitively, emotionally, and
and
tarot
right.
card. Wow. So she's
And like
translating it.
that's what I found with Anna is that she gave me like the perfect mathematical framework for everything that I've been doing in terms of oracle work, within terms of um like harmony research, just it. And then within my own mind I've been developing like my own internal models of meaning, to trying to build machines that can be like little manifestations of my mind. And Anna Terranova's model seems to be like the perfect core, like kind of image. It's like, here you go. And that's all I've been saying this whole time about like detecting a field of meaning within causal and acausal qualities. Um, is that there? That's basically that nomenclature came from Anna Terranova. Um, and to me, that's really what seems like the universal field is that there seems to be a way of recognizing like the causal relationships between everything, and then a field of acausal relationships.
Uh,
And previously, like the acausal relationships have just sort of been ignored, but it seems to me to be the essence of listening.
and when you say listening, which is so fundamental, you get your agents, your AI agents to listen. What is listening now? You've learned what listening is. What is listening?
And so, what Anna Terranova's work really provided was a framework for detecting the synchronicity. So, what I'm listening for is synchronicity, is when things come into sync, even if it doesn't make sense. Like even if there isn't a reason, there you just go, or even if there you can't reason. It's beyond you can't fathom a reason. You just are going to recognize that that these patterns are coherent, and you take that as information. Um, and so like uh with Anna Terranova's work, like with these machines, you take different streams. You take like within the context of like an ensemble, I do like an impulse. It just would be like because it's very easy for people to understand. It's either one or zero. So I'm playing the drum, or I'm not playing the drum. My heart's beating. My heart's not beating. My body's moving left, or it's not moving left. It's moving right. It's not moving right. Like, and I can make all these distinctions, and then I can just compare. Um, did like me moving left correspond with me hitting the drum? It's like, do those things correlate? Maybe, but not necessarily. Does my heart rate correlate to me playing the drum? Like when those things do actually come into alignment, and basically, I think like the core of Anna Terranova's um like theory is like a raw example that I try to like that seems to make sense to me as like the kid of a drummer is the groove is when the way you're moving and you're playing, if you're just playing the drum by yourself, you can get into a groove. And it takes a while, but you can feel it. And it's obvious like the hypothesis is when your heart rate and like the way your eyes are moving and the way like you're gyrating your body and your hand movements, it's when they all come into like natural sync. It's when the pulses that this is not this like is my heart rate is like is my heart beating is my heart beating is my heart beating is my drumming is my am I moving left and right? It's just like literally when they just are like yes, when all those things come into alignment, you just have like a signal. It's like
Yeah,
there's something happening here.
there's something happening, and some of that's getting measured on the dance floor, where certain forms of dance uh, have dancers with EEGs on their skulls,
Yeah,
and they start getting harmonic. They match up
there's
with each other,
entrainment. Yeah,
and that happens on the dance floor sometimes. People who get to know each other better, they know each other's moves, and they get into a oneness with each other that is playing off of each other, very much like improv jazz might do. And that's the sort of thing that you are studying. What I am interested in is outside of these places, like in play, where
hmm,
kids are playing with each other. There's some kind of harmonic that happens when they're moving together, or some sports team that is like a
right.
basketball team that's really in sync with each other. Uh, and there's all kinds of ways that in sync can happen within certain groups. Now, I'm still trying to understand what you mean in all of this by synchronicity.
I mean, synchronicity is what you look for to establish a domain of meaning.
Ah,
Otherwise, it's just a domain of the rational.
hmm.
It's what makes sense. It's the domain of what can be reasoned about and understood, which is sort of a facsimile for meaning. And I feel like that's what lots of these AI agent LLMs, chat GPT systems are all about. They're all about um, optimizing a rational solution. And part of that rational solution is for it to act sensitive and for it to have, proper emotional depth. And but these are all like problems that it's solving through a rational uh, coordination of itself. Um, and to me, like what really establishes the domain of meaning is you always have what in front of you is the rational thing you should be doing. Um, and that is I guess that's dependent on like your personality and how you feel and like but there's like what is like obvious like I'm gonna need food and I'm gonna take care of my stuff and there's all this like rational stuff but then there's if that's all life is meaningless is that what provides a domain of meaning for your life is that there's these fancy coincidences. There's these little domains where things line up, where it seems like not only are you building something when you like have that coincidence where you're the four ways and then you find a fifth way.
Yeah.
It's like no, it's not. You're not building something. There's something being built in
Th-
general and um and what the synchronicity seems to provide is a certain type of networking. It allows for all of us to sort of be in our own disjunct sort of domains of meaning, domains of of ourselves. But then there is synchronicity brings it together. There's some sort of unified field of how this is all happening that is beyond what can be understood rationally by any one perspective. And I feel like that's what synchronicity is trying to establish is how to coordinate an organism when you are limited by your perspective. Um,
that is so cool an idea, Lily, um, that you can be going along in your rational way and keep just one step at a time according to the way we're supposed to, as we've been told, And
Yes,
then
according to the laws.
and this the unspoken laws of proper behavior
Yeah,
and proper goals. And then along comes Jones, along comes synchronicity, and it pops you out of the it can pop you out, and you can
right.
say, well, how did that happen? What does that mean? uh, and it's makes you have to then think that there's something else going on, and that, finding that fifth way to a mystical experience was just part of a whole process that I often go through, where stuff happens that seems to fit where I couldn't have anticipated it. And that's the field of meaning that you are trying to describe, which you also call acausal.
Yeah. Um, to me, as like a as an oracleist, like the way that I describe like a reading to someone
Yeah.
is that there is actually a conversation that we are going to have, and it already exists in the future. And these cards are just a an excuse. It's some sort of thing to allow for the karma of all of our rational domains of this and that and the other thing to get kind of sloshed, and then to align to a specific sort of conversation. Um, and it allows for that conversation that we're going to have in the future to come in, where normally me, like ordinarily, because of my status and my situation and that like I'm an acquaintance and all these things, we would never talk to me about these things, as a client of a psychic or whatever, right? Um, but because of the cards, it opens up. And so the idea that I have, is that this what makes the acausal, as opposed to causal, is that a causal is linear. It's all it's always locked into that we're in this moment in time. We're experiencing it from now. We accumulate information into the present moment, and then we make rational projections from this moment into the past and into the future. But the acausal is a structure that exists throughout all time. Um, and it's what allows for like you're saying, like you have like you have your rational universe of what you're working on. And then there's like where it rationally is going to go, but that's not where like that's not where it's supposed to go. There's a in like the grander scheme, this was actually for something else. But rationally, it's just going to run you right into some specific thing. But what you need is some guy to show up in your world and completely rock your world, through a similarity, through another situation, and through meaning, fundamentally a person that you experience in your life or something you encounter that is so meaningful that it overloads your rational orientation towards where you were going, and then you change your orientation, and it allows for the field to open up, because the rational domains are limiting. They produce fields. And this acausal, the synchronicity, this domain of I really like this word that Jonathan Zapp gave as ortho time as opposed to linear time. Ortho just literally means true. This ortho time structure, to orient around, and that to me, that's what it gives you. It's like when ensemble musicians are orienting, when you're working around with a psychic or with an oracle, it has this property of that you can see into the future. Is that if I'm playing with my musicians or my fellow musicians, I'm playing in an ensemble, I can tell that in about 2 bars there's going to be the chorus. And it's not like we've talked about it. It's not like we've ever played this song before. There's just a natural like rhythm and groove, and in about 2 bars we're going to go into the chorus. And it's like, how do I know that? It's because seeing into the future, interacting with this acausal field naturally gives you a way of negotiating with time, which is ordinarily impossible from a rational perspective.
I,
Um,
I'm impressed with the concept of the beginning being able to predict what's going to happen when you can tune in to what the beginning is. It sets the stage, it sets something to be able to tell a sensitive person like you what's going to follow. When I'm writing these chapters in this book, I spend most of the time on the first part of whatever I'm writing, like section one or section two, because that sets the stage for the rest of it. So there's something about tuning in to that beginning and recognizing, I'll say, the power of those first few bars to tell
mhm.
you what else is going to happen.
uh, so I live my life by this metaphor, which I think is so interesting. Is I like so as someone that builds oracles, I can't there's an unusual market, and so I have to kind of like find people. Um, but what I find is that whenever I arrive to a scenario, and I'm a traveler, like I live in an RV, um, it's those initial people. It's the initial situation that I show up with and that the world that I'm interacting with presents that basically encapsulates the whole dynamic of harmony that is going to unfold.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and like I said, like, for me, like I made this oracle. This it was like a manifestation of like a notebook technique. But I was like, ooh, this is a really fancy idea. I can do this. And I made it. And then like immediately the universe was like, here's colleagues. This is a thing. And I'm like, okay, like, and it's just been that way ever since. And it's like that's just and you can't I think there's something about like the beginning of a thing and of itself is a synchronicity. The things that happen at the beginning, you can't rationally say like why all that is super important, but it's important to the domain of harmony. Um, just by the fact that it's the beginning. There's just a domain of synchronicity there, just like the things that happen at the very end. Um, relate to the domains of meaning for everything that will come next. Like by having a place, a statement, a domain, things can come in and out of that domain. And sometimes it will make so much sense why things are in that domain. And sometimes it will make no sense why things are in that domain, but it's still there. And so you put out a seat for it, and so it's a spirit, and so you should take care of it when it's there. You treat it uh with earnest listening.
Could you give us an example of that?
Hmm. Is like let's say like you have a family that like I have a family that my mom will always feed anybody. And I'm a weirdo and I bring home people all the time. And and so there's always like a place at dinner for uh for somebody. And usually it's the guest, it's my mom's friend, it's the person I've been traveling with. Um and there's so many uh there's times where it's very comfortable and it makes a lot of sense and we can have very reasonable conversations. Um and then there's times where people come that push all of us. And the thing that I think is like really the test is that it doesn't really matter. Like I as a person have like just chose these people to be my friends and I've brought them into my home or whatever. And what is the responsibility of all of us is to just treat them like anyone else. Just to listen and to hear them out and to just like, even though they might rationally have all the, ordinarily have this status and smell this way or look this way or have this orientation with these people or whatever. It's like you can play this game, but it's like,
Hmm.
okay, but there's this synchronicity of this person and my table. And I make the domain of meaning with my relationship, with my genuality, with my ability to be present and to listen and to be genuinely accepting and open to this guest at at this table at this place. Um,
I think that's a lot of fun what you're talking about doing. I love doing it myself, especially with people I have never met before. It's
yeah,
it's it,
yeah. My the people I brought home to my mom, like,
I mean, because they they can have all kinds of things about them, like the guy who brought the tow truck for my housemate car. I was waiting around, and we got into a conversation about trucks and how they break down, and what the experience has been like being driving these things and things he's run into. And it became just a delight to tune into this guy's world for a little while until he left with the car.
yeah,
Yep. That's an important part of the future of humanity is to be able to recognize the joy of those first meetings. Again, it's a first meeting, and a lot of them are just first meetings. I'll never see this guy again. And there are a lot of other times, same thing, get into it with somebody and really have an enjoyable time. And there's something about the second time that just doesn't do it like the first time does.
sure.
How come that is?
Because the story's real. It matters.
The
You can't
second
just do it
time?
again. Like it happened once, and so that's what I mean. It's like that's why I think I really like the metaphor of like a person that's like a strange guest,
Yeah.
because if you were really weird to them the first time, and then you invite them again, they come a second time. That's meaningful in of itself that they came the second time, but you're still the people that were weird that first time. And you can never really undo that unless, you work on it. It says something real. There was a real reason why we were weird to them that first time. And then we have to work through that.
Well,
And we can't not
let's
deal with
just
that.
say you weren't weird with them the first time. Let's say you were doing the Lilly listening, trying to understand, trying to see how this person goes in the world. Let's say you were doing that, and I'm saying the person comes
Oh,
back
okay.
the next time, and somehow whatever happened the first time becomes more distant the second time.
Um, so uh like I structure my social relationships so like we generally like are constantly upping the ante. Um but like the classic example I can get like in my schema of life is like when I'm doing readings for people at like a gathering or a festival or whatever, I tell them that uh, I'm not saying this to you. I'm just I'm providing a weird little scenario that's gonna move your emotions around in kind of funny weird little ways, but like Lilly Fiorino isn't saying these words to you. Like I'm going through a performance, and I say that so people can have the meaning and they don't associate the meaning with me. And I think there's a real loss if they think that like I did something for them. It's like, no, 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 no. Like it's uh I guess I performed some sort of service. I had a conversation. I was genuine with them under some sort of strange condition. But I just was an irrational thing to do. That's what it is. Um and it's uh it was meaningful, but it's meaningful to you. And so I would imagine like in like if we had a good rapport the first time and then the second time we go around and it's not the same. Um what I would sense is that that there was a fundamental misalignment about the meaning. Is that there was synchronicity and you it was but it wasn't so much about like that person as so much as it was that there was a transition that needed to happen in your life. There was something that was very, that ultimately the other person or yourself, you experience some sort of domain of meaning within this interaction because of some synchronicity, some transition that it performed in your life, some sort of entertainment. Um, but uh your ego, your rational self said it was that person. Or and so when they come back around again, you're like looking for it. And it's like, no, it wasn't them. They were an excuse. Like they were just a way of connecting the energies between things. And that's what you actually experience as meaning, not this person. Um, you
Well,
experience yeah,
that's very clear. That's very clear. Um, and there's something about the first time where the openness to being in wherever you are, rather than being who you are, for both people, becomes the focal point for the connection.
right.
When then your ego says, "Hey, there's something. What happened to the last time? How come we're not doing it again?" Because the ego is expecting a repetition when it was the circumstances each of you were in that helped make that first meeting happen. That's a very
Right.
that's a very clear explanation for a lot of stuff that I've gone through. So
Yeah, and that's very clear like in musical ensemble. It's like we groove once and it grooved great, and then we try grooving again and it's gonna want to go a different way. Even though like even if you really loved the previous groove, you can come back to that maybe. But
maybe
you should really just try to keep
keep up
doing the
build,
thing.
keep doing it instead of trying
Yeah.
to repeat it. Ah, that's cool. So we've come to the end of our time here, Lily. It's been a lot of fun here,
Yeah,
trying
most
to
definitely.
most definitely trying to see how you think and how you feel, and particularly acausal and meaning fields of meaning, and many other things here. The harmonics, the difference between the tarot cards and the I Ching, that was far out and groovy for me to be able to hear. So, is there anything last thing you'd like to tell our audience before we stop?
Um Well, I'm working on a project that I call SETA. Just it's sort of a joke on Anna Terranova's Zeta or psi model. I think that all good like synchronicity, like sort of like I don't know, like this is just like all good psychic work should be a joke. Um, and it's ultimately working on a multimodal framework for detecting and working with and producing like a workshop uh, for detecting and training models on a variety of different or like an infinite mode of different stream inputs and domains of harmony. Um, and then the sort of the side project that which actually seems like the same project to me is I'm developing my oracle and the Zap oracle. I'm producing an oracle which are it's a unity of and it's an acausal causal oracle that has a sliding scale. That sometimes it will be much more like a therapist where it really rationally will go through with you, and then sometimes it will just do a random thing based off of synchronicity and just be acausal. And it uses this domain of harmony to detect when is appropriate for acting causally, when I'm acting, uh, what makes sense in that domain. or doing the thing that just is like a an unordinary uh, anomaly. And then to be able to have a system that can harmonically and self-organize around that. And that's really like the internal landscape of how the SETA program works, how to actually, it's how to scale between you have an instrument and you have all these components and how to organize around them. And so these are like my this is like my main project I'm working on right now. It's a SETA project, and ultimately are interested in building oracles and really, really, really interesting harmonic workshops. So that's me.
That's you, and may the harmony be with you.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate having a colleague along the way.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm glad we were able to do this.